Senator Shelby, you've just come out of a hearing about the possibility of new legislation to regulate cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. What gave rise to this hearing, and in particular at a time when there's a lot of talk about deregulation? Why are we talking about more regulation in Washington?
Well, I think what they're talking about today that I gathered, they need a task force. The SEC doesn't basically have jurisdiction of certain things. Commodity futures doesn't. Treasury is involved in this, so is the Federal Reserve. I think what they're going to have to do is put a task force of the regulatory bodies to deal with Bitcoin, and because this is a cryptocurrency, a lot of people don't understand it. It's not backed by any sovereign government. So it's a dangerous thing because it could cause systemic risk to our whole financial system. We don't know that yet, but this is something that is new to all of us. It's a virtual currency, and virtual means basically it's not real.
So exactly, Senator, where you took us, is this so much a matter of protecting the investors in the cryptocurrency, or is it a concern that it could spread into the banking system, the financial system more broadly? How real is that risk?
Well, I think it could be real if it continues to grow as it has in recent years. In 5 years, it could be, or less, it could be in the trillions of dollars. And anything like that, trading around the world could cause systemic risk. We don't know that yet. A lot of things we don't know, but that's why they need this task force to find out the risk, find out the rewards here, and how to protect investors.
So, Senator Shelby, you have oversight responsibility with your colleagues of the banking system, the financial system in the United States of America. Right now, as you know, the markets, particularly equity markets, are going through a lot of turmoil. Do you have a sense at this point of whether, in fact, the regulation that got put into effect after 2008 is holding up well? That is to say, our banking system is still safe and secure despite what the markets are going through right now?
I believe so. I asked the basic question just a few minutes ago to the SEC chairman and the commodity futures trading chairman, and they thought and said that they thought the fundamentals of the market from the regulatory standpoint were working, that what goes up basically is going to come down. They don't know for sure that this is a small correction, a big correction, where it will go, but sooner or later the market will bottom out and probably go up again. But I asked the question, what caused this? They don't really know. A lot of it's profit taking. A lot of it may be a specter of inflation, the Fed raising interest rates. A lot of unknowns here. We need to find out.
Well, as you talk about the possibility of inflation, we even have today the White House going out and saying, don't worry so much about the tax cuts. They aren't necessarily inflationary. What is the possible linkage between this concern about inflation on the one hand and the tax cuts that were just enacted in December?
Well, I think the tax cut, I supported them. I think that's overall good for the economy, and I think that will prove you're going to see that. On the other hand, there's speculation in any market when it starts getting a little frothy and so forth. So is this a correction? I think that's the question before us. Is this a correction? And will it start again, go up and go down? Of course, what goes up in a market, ultimately it'll come down. So you have to ride it up, but sometimes you ride it down.
And when a market comes down, as much as we've seen these equity markets come out, we see some situations we probably weren't focused on before. One of them right now has come to light just today, which is this new product, I must confess, I don't fully understand, which is basically tied to volatility and being able to invest in the possibility the volatility will remain rather than go away. We have, for example, Credit Suisse involved shutting down one fund. And on the other hand, we have BlackRock saying there should be more regulation of these speculative funds. Is this something that you will be taking a look at, whether, in fact, we haven't anticipated these new products?
Absolutely. That's why we had the hearing today before the Banking Committee. We have oversight of these agencies, and I think we've got to do it. Let's see what kind of task force is formed regarding this and what's next.
To what extent, Senator, do you think that part of the problem is actually monetary policy? As you talked, it can be frothy, the markets. Some of that may be because we, the United States, but also Europe and Japan, have invested so much in the monetary facilities. We've gotten balance sheets so big. Is that partly the cause here?
Well, I'm not sure yet, and I don't believe that the regulators are sure. That's why they need to find out what's going on here. But what I would question is when they use the word virtual currency, it's not real. It doesn't have a sovereign backing. What's the bottom there? I mean, somebody made this up. and they're trading on it. But what is the real value? I don't know.
And finally, Senator, give us a sense of the timeline, because these markets are moving so fast. I mean, take a look at Bitcoin. It went way, way up and came way, way down as a matter of, 30, 60, 90 days. How fast can Congress move to really get their arms around this to decide whether we need to have a regulatory framework and what it might look like?
Well, I don't know if we need a regulatory framework. I think that the regulators themselves first need to be meeting. That's Treasury, that's the Federal Reserve, that's the SEC and the commodity futures all together. That's what they talked about today. Let's see what comes out of that.